Ladies and gentlemen, there's a thief in the room, not the kind that breaks in through windows or slips through doors. No, this one lives inside us, and it steals something far more valuable than money. It steals moments, moments of courage, moments of clarity, moments where life was asking us to act, but we stood still because we were thinking too much, thinking until the moment passed. And if you've ever laid awake replaying the same thought again and again, if you've ever held back from an opportunity because you needed just a little more certainty, then you already know the power this thief has. But today we're going to expose it. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how to take your mind back. So stay with me. Because once you understand what overthinking really is, you won't waste another day letting it run your life. The first truth, overthinking is not intelligence, it's indecision in disguise. I once met a man who said, "I'm not overthinking, I'm being careful." But months passed, and his careful thinking never became doing. He wasn't protecting himself, he was postponing his life. Overthinking makes you feel productive while you're standing still. It's activity without progress, effort without results. The second truth, your mind is a powerful servant, but a terrible master. Your mind will replay the past like a broken record, not because it hates you, but because that's what an undirected mind does. If you don't give your mind a job, it will create one. And that job is usually worry. So the question is not, why do I overthink? The question is, who's in charge here? The third truth, action is the cure. There's only one thing stronger than an overthinking mind movement. A small step forward interrupts 1,000 thoughts. You can't walk confidently and worry endlessly at the same time. Your mind has to choose. And when you move, it follows. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need a starting point. The fourth truth, discipline breaks the cycle. Overthinking is a habit. And habits don't disappear, they get replaced. Replace thought loops with routines. Replace confusion with clarity. Replace hesitation with decision. Don't wait for the mind to calm down. Train it, direct it, lead it. The fifth truth, thoughts grow stronger when you avoid them. Running from thoughts gives them power. Facing them gives you power. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful or harmful? If it's harmful, throw it out. If it's helpful, use it. But don't let every passing thought sit at the table of your attention. The final truth, life rewards the decisive. You don't need perfect thinking. You need courageous decisions. You need the ability to say, this is the direction and I'm moving. Life doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for progress. And progress begins the moment you stop thinking too much and start living with intention. Ladies and gentlemen, your mind is powerful, but it is your mind. Take back the steering wheel. Guide your thoughts. Choose your actions and watch your life start moving forward again. Overthinking is one of the most subtle yet destructive habits of the mind. It doesn't shout. It doesn't break down your door. It doesn't announce itself like fear, anger, or stress. Instead, it quietly slips into your thoughts and convinces you that you're being responsible, thorough, or cautious, when in truth, it's stealing the most valuable things in your life, your time, your confidence, and your opportunities. Let's start with time, because that's the first thing overthinking takes from you. Time is the currency of life. Every moment you spend trapped in repetitive thoughts is a moment you never get back. Overthinking makes you believe you are preparing, analyzing, or problem solving. But in reality, you are replaying the same idea from 100 angles without moving even an inch forward. Minutes turn to hours, hours turn to days, and before you realize it, a simple decision, one that could have taken a few seconds, has drained days of mental energy. Overthinking doesn't just consume time, it wastes it, leaving you mentally exhausted but with nothing accomplished. Next, overthinking steals your confidence. It does this by slowly making you doubt your own judgment. When you overanalyze every choice, you subconsciously tell yourself that your first decision wasn't good enough, that your instinct can't be trusted, that you need more information, more certainty, more reassurance. Eventually, you stop believing in your own ability to choose. You become afraid of being wrong, terrified of making a mistake, and dependent on external validation. Overthinking turns confident people into hesitant ones, turns clear thinkers into worriers, and turns simple actions into emotional challenges. Confidence fades not because you lack ability, but because you've trained your mind to second guess everything you do. And then comes the final theft. Opportunities don't disappear because you are incapable. They disappear because you are too slow to seize them. Life rewards people who act, who move, who take initiative. Overthinking traps you at the intersection of should I and what if, while other people walk right past you into the opportunities you spent too long thinking about. A moment of hesitation can cost you a connection, a job, a chance to grow, or a life-changing decision. Opportunities rarely wait. They're like doors that open for a moment, and if you stand in front of them thinking instead of walking through, they close. The greatest danger of overthinking is that it feels normal. You hardly notice the damage being done because the process is internal, silent, and disguised as caution. But the truth is powerful and simple. Overthinking does not protect your future. It steals your present. To win back your life, you must first recognize this thief for what it truly is. Only then can you start building the clarity, action, and discipline needed to stop it from stealing any more of your precious time, confidence, or opportunities. Overthinking often feels like a never-ending replay of the same problem. You think about something once, then again from a slightly different angle, and before you know it, your mind is caught in a loop. It's like being stuck in a mental traffic jam where the cars aren't moving, but the engine is running hard. The real question is, why does the mind replay problems in the first place? Understanding this is the first step to breaking the loop. The mind replays problems because it is designed for survival, not peace. Thousands of years ago, thinking deeply about threats kept human beings alive. If your ancestors heard a suspicious sound in the dark, their minds replayed it again and again, analyzing every possibility until they figured out whether the danger was real. That habit kept them safe. Today, however, most of what we worry about isn't life-threatening, but the mind hasn't updated its software. It still reacts to emotional discomfort as if it's real danger. So when you face uncertainty, embarrassment, conflict, or failure, the mind replays that experience in an attempt to protect you. It believes that if it keeps thinking, it will eventually find the perfect solution. But here's the problem. Overthinking doesn't lead to clarity, it leads to confusion. Your mind becomes like a hamster on a wheel, working hard but going nowhere. Another reason the mind gets stuck replaying problems is because of unfinished emotional business. If something triggers strong feelings, fear, regret, anger, guilt, the mind tries to solve the emotion by replaying the event. It keeps returning to the same thought, hoping to find a different outcome. Unfortunately, thoughts can't change the past. All they can do is keep you trapped in it. Often, overthinking is fueled by a desire for absolute certainty. You want guarantees. You want to be sure something will go well before you act. You want to avoid mistakes before they happen. But certainty is a myth. Life is built on risk, decisions, and imperfect choices. The more you chase certainty, the longer you stay in the loop of overthinking. So how do you break this cycle? The first step is awareness. You must recognize when your mind is shifted from solving to spinning. If you've thought about the same issue more than 3 times and found no new insight, you're no longer thinking, you're looping. The second step is interrupting the pattern. You can do this by shifting your state, standing up, walking, journaling, or changing your environment. Movement is a powerful disruptor of mental loops. The third step is directing the mind with intention. Instead of asking, what if something goes wrong? Ask, what can I do right now? The mind needs a clear command. Give it a task, make a decision, take one small step, or set a time limit for thinking. Finally, you must learn to trust imperfection. Life becomes lighter the moment you accept that you don't need all the answers to move forward. You just need enough clarity to take the next step. When you understand why the mind replays problems and you learn how to interrupt the loop, you regain control. You shift from a mind that runs your life to a mind that works for your life. One of the greatest turning points in overcoming overthinking is realizing a simple, life-changing truth: you are responsible for your thoughts, not a victim of them. This idea may feel heavy at first, but when you truly understand it, it becomes one of the most liberating powers you can ever develop. Most people believe thoughts just happen. They say things like, I can't help what I think, or my mind just goes there automatically. And yes, thoughts may appear without your permission, but what you do with those thoughts is where your power lies. You can't control the first thought, but you have complete authority over the second. The moment you accept this, the grip of overthinking weakens. Overthinking grows strongest in minds that feel powerless. When you believe your thoughts control you, your mind becomes like an untamed animal running wild, dragging you in every direction, creating fear, doubt, and imaginary scenarios. But the moment you take responsibility, you become the one holding the reins. Responsibility is not pressure, it is freedom. It means you are no longer forced to follow every thought that appears. You are the thinker, not the thought. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for every worry. It means choosing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. A thought is only as powerful as the energy you give it. When you feed a thought with focus, emotion, and repetition, especially negative ones, you give it strength. But when you say, no, this thought does not serve me, and redirect your mind, the thought loses power and fades. One of the myths people carry is that taking responsibility requires perfection. They think it means having perfectly calm, positive thoughts all the time. Not true. Responsibility is simply the art of choosing your response. A negative thought may show up, but you don't have to entertain it, explore it, or build a story around it. You acknowledge it and then you choose something better. With responsibility comes clarity. When you stop blaming situations, people, or emotions for your overthinking, you start to see the real issue, the habit of your mind, and habits can be retrained. Responsibility gives you the courage to say, if I created this habit, I can uncreate it. If my mind learned to overthink, it can learn to think clearly. This shift transforms your emotional life as well. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you begin feeling empowered. You no longer wait for life to calm down before you feel calm. You create calm from within. You no longer wait for a perfect moment to act. You create action through decision. You stop fearing your thoughts because you know they are not commands, they are suggestions, and you get to choose which suggestions to accept. Ultimately, taking responsibility for your thoughts is about reclaiming ownership of your inner world. It's about standing tall and saying, my mind is powerful, but I am more powerful than my mind. When you embrace this truth, overthinking loses its dominance. You stop being a passenger in your own head and become the driver of your destiny. Overthinking is not something you eliminate by force. It's something you replace. The mind cannot stay empty. If you remove a habit, you must fill the space with another habit, or the old one returns even stronger. That's why the key to stopping overthinking isn't fighting your thoughts. It's building daily practices that automatically create clarity, structure, and mental direction. When your mind is guided, it has no room to wander. The first habit is starting your day with intention. Most people wake up and immediately check their phone, allowing messages, news, and noise to set the tone for their mind. When your day begins in chaos, your thoughts will follow the same pattern. Instead, start your morning by deciding who is in control, you or the world. Spend just 5 minutes asking yourself, what are the 3 things I want to accomplish today? This simple act creates direction, and direction is the enemy of overthinking. The second habit is writing things down. Overthinking feeds on clutter. When everything stays in your head, even small tasks feel overwhelming. Writing is a form of mental housekeeping. It takes swirling thoughts and gives them structure. It takes confusion and turns it into a list. It takes emotional noise and turns it into clarity. A journal, notebook, or even a notes app can save hours of mental spinning. If you can write a thought down, you no longer need to carry it around. The third habit is time blocking, giving each important task a specific place in your schedule. Overthinking thrives when everything feels urgent or undefined. Time blocking removes that stress. It tells your mind, this has a place. This will be handled. I don't need to think about it right now. That one small shift can silence half your worry. You're not ignoring life, you're organizing it. Another powerful habit is taking small, imperfect actions. Overthinking often appears when you're trying to plan the perfect move. But perfection is a trap that keeps you stuck. When you train yourself to take small steps instead of waiting for perfect conditions, your brain learns a new rhythm, direction over hesitation. It's better to take a tiny step forward than to sit still thinking about a big step you're afraid to take. The next habit is scheduled reflection. Overthinkers reflect constantly, but without structure or purpose. Instead of letting the mind wander all day, set aside a specific time for review. 10 minutes in the evening to reflect on your choices, progress, and lessons. When reflection has a place, it stops ambushing your mind throughout the day. Finally, one of the most transformative habits is creating a mental shutdown ritual. A moment where you tell your mind the day is done. This could be a short walk, deep breathing, prayer, stretching, a warm cup of tea, anything that signals closure. Without a shutdown ritual, the mind keeps working long after the day ends, replaying everything. These habits don't just reduce overthinking. They replace it with clarity, structure, and mental calm. When your daily life supports your mind stops working against you. You become focused, grounded, and in control, not because you forced your thoughts to quiet down, but because you built a life that naturally quiets them. If overthinking has a natural enemy, it is action. Not perfect action, not heroic action, simply movement. Overthinking is a mental freeze, a kind of paralysis where the mind runs faster than the body. You think so much that you end up doing nothing. But when you take action, even a small one, you interrupt that paralysis instantly. Action pulls you out of your head and places you back into the real world. To understand why action is so powerful, you need to see how overthinking survives. It survives on imagination. It feeds on what ifs, on future scenarios, on possibilities that haven't happened. Overthinking lives in the future, but action lives in the present. The moment you act, you shift your mind from possibilities to realities. You stop drowning in what might happen and begin dealing with what is happening. This shift alone can silence half the noise in your head. Action also breaks fear. Overthinking amplifies fear because the mind exaggerates everything it doesn't face. A task you avoid grows bigger. A decision you postpone becomes heavier. A conversation you delay becomes scarier. But when you take even one tiny step toward that fear, it shrinks. Action turns fear into feedback. Instead of imagining the worst, you begin learning what's actually true. Another reason action cures overthinking is because it creates momentum. Momentum is a psychological force. Once you start moving, it becomes easier to keep moving. And once momentum builds, you no longer have time to overthink. Your energy shifts from analyzing to executing. That's why some people seem so confident. They're not smarter, they simply act faster. They don't wait for clarity, they create clarity through doing. But you don't have to take giant steps to break mental paralysis. In fact, giant steps often cause more thinking. The secret is to take small, break tasks into tiny pieces. Make the first step so easy your mind can't resist. For example, instead of writing a full report, open the document. Instead of cleaning the whole room, start with one drawer. Instead of committing to a full workout, walk for 2 minutes. These small actions are not insignificant, they are psychological breakthroughs. Each small action sends a message to your mind: I can move. I'm not stuck. The message is more important than the size of the action. Action also creates evidence. Overthinking thrives in the absence of evidence. When you don't act, your mind fills the gap with fear, doubt, and assumptions. But every action you take creates proof that you're capable, strong, and in control. Evidence builds confidence, and confidence destroys overthinking. Finally, action gives you back the one thing overthinking steals: control. When you act, you no longer feel like life is happening to you. You feel like you're shaping your life. You become the driver, not the passenger. You stop waiting for the perfect moment because you realize progress is the perfect moment. In the end, action is more than movement, it's transformation. One small step can silence 100 anxious thoughts. One decision can break hours of mental spinning. Action doesn't just defeat overthinking, it rewrites your identity into someone who chooses courage over hesitation, clarity over confusion, and progress over paralysis. Overthinking traps the mind in a loop, a cycle of repetitive thoughts, fears, and doubts that keep you walking in mental circles. To stop overthinking, you need more than motivation. You need a mindset that naturally moves forward even when uncertainty appears. A forward-moving mindset is not about knowing all the answers. It's about adopting beliefs, habits, and perspectives that propel you instead of holding you back. The first principle of a forward-moving mindset is accepting imperfection. Many people stay stuck because they believe they must make the perfect decision before taking action. But perfection is a delay disguised as a goal. Life is not built by perfect steps. It's built by consistent ones. When you allow yourself to make imperfect progress, you remove the biggest barrier to movement: the fear of being wrong. Forward thinkers don't wait for the perfect moment. They trust themselves to adjust along the way. The second principle is embracing uncertainty. Overthinking comes from a desire for control over outcomes, emotions, and the future. But the reality is that uncertainty is part of every decision, every opportunity, and every relationship. People who move forward don't fear uncertainty, they work with it. They understand that growth only happens when you step into the unknown. And they know that clarity comes after movement, not before it. Another ingredient in this mindset is detaching from the need for constant reassurance. Overthinkers often seek validation, wanting someone to confirm that their choice is right. But when your confidence depends on others, your progress will always be slow. A forward-moving mindset requires internal validation, trusting your reasoning, your values, and your ability to handle whatever comes next. When you stop needing permission to act, you free yourself to make bold moves. Then comes the principle of emotional regulation. A forward-focused mind knows how to feel emotions without drowning in them. Overthinkers often confuse thoughts with reality and emotions with danger. But emotions are signals, not stop signs. A forward-moving mindset acknowledges fear, doubt, or anxiety and keeps going anyway. Emotional maturity is being able to say, I feel uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean I'm making the wrong choice. A powerful addition is solution-centered thinking. Overthinking is problem-centered. It magnifies what could go wrong. A forward-moving mind shifts the question from what might go wrong to what can I do next? That small shift transforms worry into strategy. It turns obstacles into steps. It breaks the loop and builds momentum. Finally, a forward-moving mindset is built through identity. You must see yourself as someone who acts, someone who decides, someone who can handle outcomes. When you change how you see yourself, your behavior follows naturally. If you see yourself as someone who hesitates, you will hesitate. But if you see yourself as someone who moves, even through uncertainty, that identity becomes the engine that drives you. In the end, a forward-moving mindset is not about eliminating fear or doubt. It's about choosing direction over hesitation, purpose over perfection, and progress over paralysis. It's about teaching your mind a new pattern. Don't circle the problem. Walk toward the solution.